Hey guys, I'm Matt. Welcome back to our aquariums. Today I wanted to do a review of a product that I've been using long enough I now feel comfortable reviewing. And that is the CoralRX Coral Dip. It's coral dip, obviously, which is something I think is important for every reef aquarium and even good for fish-only aquariums, and I'll explain that in a bit. But the main idea behind it is that when you get a new coral, most of us get coral frags at the store, or at the fish shop, or we buy them from other aquariums, or where we all get them from different places. But you never know where that frag has been. You never know what kind of pest the tank that it was in might have had in it, and you definitely don't want to add those pests to your tank and get your corals infected with them, or your live rock, or your fish. And so ideally we would all have, quarantine aquariums set up, and we'd be able to stick the new corals or fish in there and observe them and make sure they're all healthy and everything, but a lot of us just don't have that for obvious reasons. It's expensive, it's time consuming. So this is the next best thing, and I've been really happy with this product so far. I have been using it on every piece of coral I get, no matter what, without fail. And it's super easy to use. It basically, the way I use it is I acclimate my corals in a little plastic animal critter carrier thing here that I got at the fish store. They're pretty cheap. And on here I've marked a two quarts level, so I know exactly where the water is to take it to when I am done acclimating. So basically, I acclimate most of my corals for between an hour and an hour and a half, and when that's done, I take out whatever water is left in here down to that mark, and I start this little power head I have here going in there. The power head is important because it gets that water mixed up, and it gets this mixed into the water and really forces it through the coral and rock and whatnot. And so I get that started up and add 15 of these drops, which is, it gives you instructions on the back here that are really clear on how to treat a gallon of water. Since this is half a gallon of water, I just split that in half, and which works out to be about 15 drops. I put that in and then start a timer for 10 minutes and let the coral just kind of get moved, not necessarily moved around, but the water moved around and pushed through it. And almost immediately on any piece of rock or coral that has like bristleworms or pest, starfish, or really anything on it that's alive, you'll notice I've noticed within about the first minute and a half, they start piling out of the rocks and curling up and dying. And that kind of shows really how potent this stuff is. Now, this is a little bit more natural. Some of the coral dips include iodine. This doesn't include iodine. On the back here, the ingredients are distilled water, proprietary blend of natural extracts. I'm not exactly 100% sure what that is. From the reading I did on the web or on internet, best I could figure was it was some kind of tree extract. I'm not really sure what kind of tree extract it is. They weren't very clear on it, but whatever it is, it seems to work really well. And I know iodine can stress out corals a lot, so I tend to stay away from those kind of dips. But I really like this. I've been using it for about probably 8 months. Well, no, not that long. Probably around 6 months. Basically, since I've got it, I've dipped every single coral and every single piece of rock I've added to my tank. And that's where it comes in on a non-freshwater tank. You can still get pests in the rock and stuff, and that's where I would dip live rock. Obviously, you can go without that, but if you want to keep pests completely out of your tank, this is definitely the way to go in dipping. Also, I haven't had to personally use it for this, but I have read several reviews and stories online of people dipping corals that were receding or had some kind of tissue disease or something else causing them to die off, dipping them in this and it killing off that disease and helping revive the coral. So it can also be used kind of as that too. I haven't personally used it, so I can't say how to use it for that or whether that works 100%. I'm sure it does, since this has worked for everything else I've used it for. I'm very confident in it, actually, but I just haven't had any corals have any problems like that. So that's something else to keep in mind. It's not horribly expensive. I think the bottle is something like $23, and I have added tons of coral to my tank and used this on every single one, and I still have about about 2.5 quarters of the bottle left. It does expire. I'm not really sure how long it is. I think it's about a year or so that it's good for, which is plenty of time, you know. And a lot of people aren't going to use that much, but still, that's the price you pay. I got this from Bulk Reef Supply. I'm sure there's other places to get it, but that's where I got it from, just because I like their customer service, and I order a lot of my other stuff from them too. So yeah, it's a really good product. I really am happy with it. I certainly won't ever add a coral to my tank without dipping it, and as long as this continues to be available, I will continue to use it, just because I've seen it work. It doesn't damage the corals if you leave it in there for the right amount of time, which is 10 minutes. It says that on the bottle, and you time it and everything. It doesn't damage the coral. The coral doesn't seem super stressed out from it like it would with some of the other coral dips that I've seen people use, and I've visually watched bristleworms and things like that come piling out of the rock, come piling out of the coral, and just curl up and die within a few minutes of being in the dip. And so it's really, I know for sure it works, basically. Like I said, I use it in this tub, which is really the easiest way to use it. The few times I've had to acclimate a larger coral, I've used a 5-gallon bucket, and just obviously up the amount put in, which worked fine. I would recommend getting something like this to do it in, though, since it's super easy, and like I said, just mark off the exact measurements, so you're not trying to do any guesswork with how much water you have to how much dip you have. Add your dips, set a timer for 10 minutes. When it's done that 10 minutes, turn the power head off, pull the coral out, dip it in some tank water that's in another bucket or something, so you're kind of getting some of that off before you put it in your tank. Don't add the coral dip to your tank. Says that on the bottle, but still, don't do it. That will cause problems. It will kill off other live stuff, so don't dip it in, don't buy a bunch of shrimp or a bunch of fish and be acclimating them with the new coral and then dip it with the fish in there. Don't. It'll kill the fish, it'll kill the shrimp, it'll kill other stuff. Or at the very least, it won't be very good for them. Don't dip things like clams, don't dip things like anemones. Those aren't corals. They will die from it too. They're a organism in the reef just like fish and stuff are, and so they're not to be dipped. I mean, I always look up, when I have something I'm unsure about, I always look up whether it can be dipped or not. But still, it's just a handy tip, don't dip anemones, don't dip things like that. But all corals and everything, it's good for, softies, SPS, LPS. I've used it for all those corals, and they all do fine with it. If anything, it almost gives them, like I said, a little bit of a boost during that stressful time when you're moving them into a new tank. So, yep, very good product. Again, CoralRX Pro, and the little slogan on there is "Don't risk it, dip it," which is a great slogan since it's true. Just it's not worth the risk. For $20, you have a bottle of this that'll last you, a year and through probably hundreds, arguably. Well, I would say that because I've dipped about 100 different frags over the past few months in this stuff, and it's still lasted me a long time and done a great job at it. So, anyways, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped, and catch you in the next video.